Welcome to the Board of Regents public hearing. If you wish to speak but have not already signed in, please do so now. I will call the speakers in the order on the sign-in sheet. You may speak on any topic related to the Board of Regents, including topics on the current agenda for the board's upcoming meeting on December 2, 2015. Please identify yourself at the start of your presentation. You will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. The hearing is being videotaped. We will forward the videotape to the Board of Regents office for review and for posting on its website. You will be contacted by the board office if the board has an interest in hearing your presentation at an upcoming Board of Regents meeting. Additional information on the board's transparency efforts and the videos from the public hearings can be found at the board's website, regents.iowa.gov/transparency. Let me speak now.
Right. Well, let me begin by introducing myself. My name is Shelton Stromquist. I'm an emeritus professor of history at the University of Iowa, emeritus as of 2014. I taught at the University of Iowa for 32 years. I came here because of the University of Iowa's stellar reputation nationally and internationally, and also because of the outstanding collegial department that we have in history. I've been appreciative over the years of the strong support that the university has given to research, and I've been a beneficiary of that. It's enabled me to publish 7 books and numerous articles. I served as department chair. I've been on the collegiate executive committee more than once, was a faculty senate officer, and have served on countless search and review committees. I've been deeply involved in undergraduate and graduate education. Like many, I've been deeply troubled by recent developments surrounding the appointment of a new president. But first, I want to object strenuously to this method of transparency, as it's called, which I see as not genuine, not interactive, essentially meaningless because it provides no opportunity for give and take. And I think this is really why people rarely show up for these hearings. They don't perceive it as a meaningful exercise. You should not underestimate, and I suspect you don't, but you might, the depth of anger and frustration in the university and the wider community over the illegitimate search and unqualified president you have presented to the University of Iowa. You ignored the views of students, faculty, and staff, and in doing so, you made a mockery of shared governance. You undermined your own legitimacy by this process, which one of your own members had the courage to acknowledge, and have done serious harm to the reputation of the University of Iowa nationally and internationally. Your stewardship, frankly, has been an embarrassment, a real violation of a more authentic tradition of truly shared governance. Rather than hiding behind a wall and pretending that random videotaped comments represent real communication, you and Bruce Harreld need to come out into the public arena and explain yourselves and your agenda. We need an open, and I stress open, public hearing, a forum at which members of the community may directly ask you questions and get forthright answers and express their own views and their vision for what public universities can and should be. You are accountable ultimately to the public, not to the governor who appointed you, and must not hide from such accountability. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is John Logsdon. I am an associate professor of biology at the University of Iowa, and I'm going to read a little bio that about me that I provided to Bruce Harreld a few weeks ago to give you some insight into where I'm coming from. I'm a very proud Iowan. Although I was born in Missouri, where my native Iowan father was attending university, I've lived in Iowa. I lived in Iowa from ages 3 to 23. I attended Iowa State University as an undergraduate, where I achieved a Bachelor's of Science in 1988. I left Iowa to pursue my PhD, eventually at Indiana University, postdoctoral work at Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia, and had a first faculty position at Emory University. But as soon as a faculty job opened up at the University of Iowa, I got it and moved myself and my family to Iowa City, where I've been ever since, where I earned tenure in 2007. I've invested broadly and deeply in this institution and the Iowa City community, including serving as interim director of the Pentecrest Museums from 2011 to 2014. As a scientist, I'm a molecular evolutionary biologist, and my research, which has been federally funded continually since 1996, is focused on the evolution of sexual reproduction. My teaching portfolio is very diverse and currently includes an introductory biology course of more than 500 students, which I will be providing content and information and engagement to in about an hour. Okay, so I am today, at least for the first segment of my conversation with you, I am representing a group of coalition of folks on campus called Iowans Defending Our University, and our universities, excuse me. And in my remaining time, I am going to read some information that we have on our organization, which represents our views. Time permitting, I will come back and give you my personal views. Iowa has long been home to top quality, accessible public universities, but this proud tradition is in grave jeopardy. The current Iowa Board of Regents is damaging the reputation of our state universities and degrading the value of University of Iowa degrees. By corrupting the search for a new University of Iowa president, the board has created a national scandal that has already harmed the university's standing. After promising transparency, the regents held multiple secret meetings with J. Bruce Harreld and ignored misrepresentations on his resume. After paying $200,000 to a private firm to run the search, the regents rejected 3 highly qualified finalists recruited by the firm to interview. After 98% of the students, staff, and faculty surveyed found Harreld unqualified, the regents, Hugh, awarded him a $590,000 starting salary and a $1 million bonus if he completes his 5-year contract. An illegitimate search has produced an illegitimate University of Iowa president. Elected bodies of staff, students, and faculty have passed motions of no confidence and censure. Across the state and nation, newspapers continue to publish letters and columns condemning the action of the Iowa's Board of Regents. Iowa's students and taxpayers deserve better. In this document, we are calling for students, alumni, parents, faculty, staff, unions, and citizens to come together to defend our universities against the board actions that do, in fact, undermine the integrity, and to demand that the board president, Bruce Rastetter, and all members of the Board of Regents be removed or resign. You can find out more about us on our website. Is that my time? Or do I have more time? 20 seconds? Hopefully I will have another opportunity in a 5-minute segment to talk to you, since there seems to be not a large number of people lined up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for this opportunity. My name is Dan Daly, and for 30 years I was an employee at the University of Iowa. I'm proud to be so. Prior to that, I was a student here at the University of Iowa. In my retirement, I do continue to pay taxes through my City of Iowa City, Johnson County, and the federal government, all of which go to support this fine institution. Principally, my standing here today is probably as a citizen of Iowa and an Iowa taxpayer, because we are heavily and rightly invested in education here in Iowa and this fine provider thereof. I only have a few prepared remarks. One is, if we can't trust the process, then how can we trust its result? And perhaps more informally, it was rigged. I want a do-over. This is sort of an embarrassment to the state of Iowa, certainly the University of Iowa, on a statewide level, on a regional level, within our conference, and internationally, where we've gained, through hard work and wonderful research and teaching, a decent reputation among universities. And now everyone is going to be looking askance at things that come from Iowa, because the process of choosing our leadership is somewhat tainted. Everything that comes from the president-select will seem tainted because the process of choosing him was tainted. And I think the best and wisest course is for us to start the process over again and do it with more real transparency and openness, and choose from a field of qualified candidates who I'm sure would love to lead this great institution. Again, my comments are, we can't trust the process. How can we trust the result? It was rigged. I want a do-over. Thank you.
And we have Hadna. It's your turn. If you could introduce yourself.
Okay. Are you already recording? Just go ahead. Okay. Hello, my name is Hadna Bintali Gassala Nurnberg. I am a student at the University of Iowa. I'm a joint degree student pursuing an MFA in literary translation and a master's degree in Francophone World Studies. I'm also an Iowa resident and a graduate teaching assistant in the Department of French and Italian. And I'm just here to support Iowans defending our universities. And I just wanted to echo my utter support for what Professor Logsdon just told you. And I'm just here to say that. Thanks for listening. And I would also echo the call for you, the Board of Regents, to resign. I think the presidential search was obviously corrupt and was making a mockery of the higher education system, which is incredibly precious. It's a precious system, and we deserve a little more respect, I think. Thank you.
I'll put this on pause. 2, 1.
Hello, my name is Stephen Boyce. I am a professor in the English department at the University of Iowa and a member of the Digital Studio for the Public Arts and Humanities. I'm coming to voice what is a majority opinion held by 97% of the faculty on campus, that the search of this for this presidential hire was an utter sham, and you are unfit to be president of this university. Finally, let me point out that holding this particular meeting on the Friday afternoon before the Thanksgiving break seems like an explicit attempt to minimize the number of people who could come on a day like this, and that no regents are present, and that this is not actually a video conference but recorded messages, suggests again that there's no effort whatsoever on the part of the regents to interact with the faculty who run the day-to-day operations of this university. And that is not only unprofessional, it's flatly cowardly. Thank you very much.
1.
Hi, John Logsdon again. Since there are no other individuals lined up to speak, I have additional comments that I'd like to make. Again, on this occasion, I will be speaking for Iowans defending our universities. And today, in this segment, I am going to read a draft of a statement that that we've put together. Before I do that, let me say a little bit about IDO. It's a coalition of faculty, students, both undergraduate and graduate, community members, and leaders on campus. So it's actually quite a broad diversity of folks on campus and associated with campus that are working together to provide a unified voice. So this is again a draft of a statement that we are preparing, a statement of the values and principles of public universities. Public universities are cornerstones of a free and democratic society, dedicated to teaching and the exchange of ideas, the creation of new knowledge, artistic expression, and engagement with the wider community. But they are under threat from powerful global corporate entities that are responsible for the accumulation of wealth in the hands of fewer individuals and widening economic inequality. Politicians and appointed overseers, in the guise of promoting efficiency, cost-cutting, and economic development, are endangering the core values and principles that are essential for the integrity and future success of public educational institutions. Increased tuition and fees, persistent acts of sexual violence and racism, and diminished diversity on public university campuses are not random and isolated events. They are connected and systemic. Solving these problems requires a similarly systemic and principled approach and must include open, transparent, and public conversations about the past and future of higher education. The following principles, among others, must guide the funding and management of public universities. Number one, access. In order to ensure access to high quality education for the largest number of students possible, funding of public universities must come primarily from state and federal appropriations, not tuition increases. Funding public universities must be sufficient to keep education affordable, especially for historically marginalized members of the community. Number two, safety. Public universities must be safe spaces for people of all backgrounds to learn in an environment that is free of racism, sexism, prejudice, retaliation, and violence. Number three, integrity. Public universities must function independently of private corporations, businesses, and wealthy individuals. Donors must not impose conditions that infringe upon academic freedom, integrity, and core educational values of the institution. Number four, corporatization. The trend toward the privatization of public education at all levels is unacceptable. Hierarchical organization and decision-making, the pursuit of profit, and secrecy are fundamentally at odds with the educational mission of public universities. Critical inquiry and liberal education can only happen in an environment where all members of the community, students, staff, and faculty feel safe, where leaders are publicly accountable for any actions that support, sustain racism, sexism, civil rights violations, human rights abuses, exploitation, or violence in all its forms. No funds should be accepted from donors who are involved or complicit in such actions. Number five, leadership. Leaders of public universities must demonstrate integrity, honesty, fairness, and professionalism. And they must have a genuine and demonstrable respect for people of diverse backgrounds and life experiences. They must understand and support the values that lie at the core of public higher education. Governance. Number six. Critical decisions about public universities should not be in the hands of a select group of appointed individuals who buy their way onto governing boards or positions of influence. Donors should not be allowed to exert undue influence over the management of public universities. Authentic and uncompromised quote-unquote shared governance must include all members of the university community. Governing boards should be free of actual or perceived cronyism, nepotism, and corruption. Composition of the board should reflect the values of the public universities and should not be decided or influenced by political affiliation. Number 7, tenure and freedom of inquiry. Tenure and academic freedom are cornerstones of public universities and should be absolutely protected. Intimidation of, retaliation against, and negative profiling of students, staff, and faculty should not be tolerated. Course content and research outcomes should not be decided or influenced by corporate grantors, endowment benefactors, and wealthy donors. Number 8, diversity. Lack of diversity is a systemic problem that cannot be fixed through cosmetic administrative approaches. A first step must be to convene open forums with members, not just leaders, of underrepresented communities to hear directly from their experience with racism and discrimination and their recommendations for changes in the campus culture. Last but not least, 9. Graduate student workers and contingent faculty must be guaranteed secure union representation, living wages and benefits, and full participation in shared governance. Central university administrators, including the president, should make themselves available to engage these issues in public forums with the wider university community. We call on anyone who shares these values and priorities to join the movement and organize in a way that will promote and protect them. DefendIowaUniversities.org. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hello again, John Logsdon, biology professor. There's not a huge crowd of people here, so I thought I would take another segment and speak for myself. As I said, I'm a proud member of the university community. I have been an extraordinarily proud faculty member the whole time I've been here. And having grown up in Iowa, have valued education so much that I returned with my family 13 years ago. When the presidential search was announced this year, I actually had a lot of hope, because when I realized the candidates that were being interviewed as they were coming in, I went to 3 of the 4 public fora. They were extraordinary. The first 3 were extraordinary and well qualified. When the 4th candidate, Mr. Harreld, was introduced, I didn't quite know what to think. It was unclear to me and many of my colleagues why this individual, who appeared to have little, if any, qualifications to be the University of Iowa president, was being provided this opportunity to interview for the position. In going to his public forum, it occurred to me and many others that this was simply a way to test the waters for something maybe different, that this person might be something that we would represent, something that we might be interested in the future. Because at the end of the forum, it became very clear to anyone in the room that he was not appropriate to be the president of the University of Iowa, both in looking at his resume as well as observing him on stage, and his interactions with the community, which he and others have characterized as gotcha. But the fact is that all 4 candidates had the same forum. It wasn't gotcha, but it was a reflection of our inability to understand why this person, who didn't have the kind of qualifications and qualities that we as the community at the University of Iowa would desire. So after that, I met with a colleague of mine who asked me, what do you characterize as the odds of Bruce Harreld being hired as the University of Iowa president? And being very much an optimist myself, I said, oh, it's 0. Obviously, he performed so poorly. And the AAUP survey made it very clear that he was unacceptable to the community in which he would then be operating. I said that, the probability has got to be 0. After which, immediately, I thought for a moment as a biologist and as a scientist. I said, well, I probably better revise that prediction because nothing is 0 in the world. And I said, well, maybe 0.1% or something like that. So I'm stunned to be sitting here talking to you about this and the fact that Bruce Harreld, with whom I have actually met 2 weeks ago, one-on-one, and I remain completely skeptical of his abilities, his qualifications, and his fit to be the University of Iowa president. I'm not disparaging him personally, and I certainly don't want to be characterized as being opposed to a business person running the university. That's not the point. It's this individual candidate whose resume did not reflect truth in some cases and did not represent the kind of thing that we would expect as an academic, to list all of the collaborators on the publications, among many other things. And I've been watching Bruce, and I'm allowed to call him Bruce because he tells me I can. I've watched him both one-on-one and in public. And to be honest with you, I remain unconvinced. I don't dislike him as a human being, but please recognize that a mistake was made. I think the other issues that one is going to have to face is the corruption issues. And as we have learned more and more and more, it appears that many things happened along the way that, if not actually illegal, which I'm unclear about, but were certainly made in a way that was not transparent, which I find ironic to be telling you in a transparency hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hi, I'm a student a graduate student at the University of Iowa in this. Oh, I am Pablo. I am a graduate student at the University of Iowa. I am currently writing my dissertation and also applying for jobs in this country. I am a non-resident alien in this country, and since I arrived here 6 years ago, um, I've had to go through a process, a bureaucratic process where I've had to study hard, work hard for this university, and also prepare a CV so I can get a job in the university system of this country. It is very discouraging to know that there have been irregularities in the application documents of the president of this university, and that the Board of Regents is basically doing nothing about it. I think it sets a very, very bad example for all of us, students of the University of Iowa. It's like I've been told that I can basically slip strange CV lines in my CV to get a job. And I think that the reaction of the Board of Regents and the whole situation about what's going on with the election of Jared as a president of the university, it's setting a very, very bad example for the community, and it's setting a very bad example for the future of universities in this country. So I wonder why this process is still going on instead of just kind of freezing the whole situation and start, I don't know, mm, I don't know. I feel very bad about the whole situation because I think that I've been kind of betrayed by the university when I was trying to actually do what I was told to do. That it was just working hard for it. And now when I see all of this situation, I feel that we are stuck in a moment at the University of Iowa where we have to accept that the person that is going to be our president is either someone that doesn't know how to make a CV, which is very, very a very naive way of seeing things, or someone that is actually lying. So I feel that we shouldn't be talking about this situation anymore. About, well, is he incompetent or is he a liar? I think that the whole point should be that we don't need no incompetency nor liars in the University of Iowa. So unless there is a thoughtful investigation of what happened, unless we see that, and the staff of the university, professors, teacher assistants, international students, graduate students, undergrads, until the whole community see that that investigation is actually going on and that we can clarify what actually happened. I think that until we see that, we're going to feel anxious, not only about the University of Iowa, but about the university system in the United States, and about the notion that corruption, it's actually something that we have to accept. And I think it's unacceptable. So me looking for a job now in the university system, I have the great temptation of saying, well, I've been always told that you can lie a bit in your CV to get a job. You can uptight it a bit. But I think that when you're applying to be a president of a university, of a state university, actually in the United States, you shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff. And if something like that is happening, I don't think the board of regents and the people that is actually deciding uh, who's going to be ruling at university should move forward. I mean, like, they should just stop, address the issue to the community, listen to what the community has to say, and of course, make a transparent investigation about that issue. So the fact that they're not exactly doing that, it's upsetting, and I think it's ultimately unfair. I mean, like, we have a whole lot of incredible people working and studying in this university, and they certainly don't deserve to be treated like that. They deserve to be listened, and they don't deserve to be put in front of a camera, anxious about the situation, talking to them because we haven't been represented at all. I mean, like, my voice has been absolutely silenced in this whole process. He didn't have the support from us. His performances were theatrical at best. He eluded questions about the whole resume thing. Um, and in the end, well, he's going to be the president of the University of Iowa, it seems. So I think that's utterly unfair. So that's basically what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Pablo. 2, 1.
Hello, my name is Shannon Patrick, Iowa City. Work with the University of Iowa Foundation as an analyst. My views are my own. Please don't hold it against them. So I'm here because back at the beginning of this month, it's November 3rd. It's election day. Talking to my wife about this. Of course, it's also the day after first arrest after I'm already recording. No takes. After President Harreld has begun. The other groups. So question comes up looking at the newspaper and the picture of all the protesters of, oh, is this related to the election? Well, no, not really. Well, what are they so upset about? So here I am on election day, where I would like to talk to my son about the virtues of democracy and what makes a good process, about transparency, about open process, about respect for rights of minorities. Instead, fellas, ladies, gentlemen, I get to talk about sham democracy and why people view that as something that has happened here. I don't really like this situation, so I'm here to say a few bits about it. Frankly, I don't like anything in my state being literally a poster child for bad democratic behavior. So let's talk about the three areas that I mentioned there as quintessentially democratic values. The first one of these is transparency of process, right? We all have a way we make decisions, these make the laws. This is a good thing, right? So instead we have a presidential hiring process that is characterized by a process that's less than transparent in many ways. There's the open meetings laws. I'm not going to get into that, I don't have an opinion of it. And for the record, actually, as the selection of the president, I don't actually have a strong opinion on that. Maybe he's the right guy, maybe he's not, but the evidence is sufficiently opaque that I can't make that decision, and that's a lot of my issue here. So, on transparency. So what we expect in the democratic process is we expect everybody to know what's going on. We expect everybody to know the criteria that are being considered, unless there's a pressing reason to have access to the information, so that everybody can look at the decision and understand it's a good one. There are some irregularities with the hiring process, issues with resumes that I'm not going to get into, but really the quintessential ones are the reasons and the criteria by which people were evaluating the president. There was a search committee. As near as I've been able to tell from following the news on this, as near as anybody has said, at no point in time was not being part of academia considered a major criteria. Parallel to this, there's a series of revelations about President Harreld and Mr. Harreld being aggressively pursued. I know you guys are supposed to recruit people, but again, if he's what is the reason for that? And this really hasn't been stated, and it isn't clear how this fits into the process. Second part of this, in addition to transparency, in addition to clarity of process, is the transparency. That's what I've touched on a little bit, but again, there has been, at this point, months of people protesting about it. What has not happened is any explanation of why this decision was made. The comments that we've gotten instead, the immediate Board of Regents response to it, was that people who are opposed to it were embracing the status quo and focusing on resisting change. That doesn't recognize any sort of legitimate grievance. And more to the point, it doesn't even explain why you're doing it, right? What is this driving change? And if there is such a need for eminent change, why wasn't it broadcast? Why wasn't the search committee looking at this? These are serious issues. Now, whether or not you made the right decision, the process is not being followed, and you're treating people who oppose this as if there's some sort of some sort of rabble rousers, dissenters, that they don't have a legitimate voice on the matter. Despite another Regent statement that you are respecting the shared governance model, there's nothing that I can point to, again, going back to the question of good democratic process, for why this happened, why these decisions were made, why opposing viewpoints were not taken into account, what this pressing crisis is that makes it so important that President Harreld's non-academic experience trump all of the usual qualifications and selections. Finally, we come to the third point of respect for minority rights, right? This is what really drives the United States. We make compromise, we realize that other people have points, we try to integrate in it and work together. When we got a situation where a variety of university boards, not just the University of Iowa, other Iowa universities, but across the nation, have pointed to irregularities in the process, where there was an active letter saying this will cause a vote of no confidence, where the only data available is the faculty poll. Now, I have heard in a variety of news sources, some of you referenced that you have gotten feedback positive to this. Now, I know you guys have Mr. Rastetter as an agronomist. You know the plural anecdote is not data, and the only data that we have available to us on this is the faculty polling, which said that effectively no one in the room thought that he was qualified for the position, and that this input was entirely disregarded. So again, going back to that, the minority, yes, it's not shared decision making. You guys have the Trump vote, but as with respect for shared governance, the obligation would appear to be that if there is such a pressing case, you communicate it with faculty, you make people understand why you are behaving what I can generally describe as autocratic and disregarding the viewpoint of the minority constituents. So this is my general piece on it. What you can do about this at this point, the first and most important thing would be treating people like they actually have a grievance here, and mostly explaining yourselves, because otherwise they're going to assume that you are in fact bad actors, that you are disregarding process, and really I would really prefer not to be embarrassed about anything dealing with my state and my state government when I'm talking to my kids. So come on, people, don't let me down.
Okay. Hi, my name is Andrea Chapela. I'm a student, a graduate student, and a TA at the Spanish department. And I came here to show my support for the group defending Iowans defending our university. I'm not from Iowa, but I do study here, and in the year and a half that I've lived here, I have come to appreciate and really like this university. And I think it's important for the Board of Regents to hear us out and to hear graduate students and teachers, and to allow us the floor for our opinions to be heard. Thank you.
Hi, John Logsdon, I think for the fourth time today. I just wanted to, since there is nobody lined up and we only have 3 minutes left, I wanted to summarize what you may have heard today, which is every single person that has come to this forum has been either critical of the reality, that is the hiring of Bruce Harreld, or the process, or both. The clear message, I've sat and listened to every single one of the speakers today, the clear message is that we are very concerned, and that many of us, and we aren't a minority, okay, many of the people that have come today are people I've not met before. So to say that there's an organized minority of folks that are actually contributing these comments is false. If in fact you have data that the views that you've heard today represent a minority of the campus community, please provide those. Otherwise, the only data that we have are the data that were provided by the AAUP survey, which provided strong evidence that the selection of Bruce Harreld was not appropriate for the president of the University of Iowa. Thank you. I hope that you take all of the comments that you've heard today very seriously. We are all very, very, I'm speaking for myself, but I can tell by the comments from the other folks that we hold our responsibilities for this university very dear. Thank you very much.